So today I would like to talk to you about hip internal rotation and how to mobilize and keep mobility in your hips. It's a pretty important movement for your overall health as well as if you're an athlete for your performance. So there's several ways to first figure out if you need to stretch and how much you need to stretch on the left versus the right. Generally, people have one side that's tighter than the other. So the first test is in sitting, just like I am. The first thing you're gonna do with your thigh rested, just bring your leg out like this on both sides, and you're likely gonna notice one side it feels a lot easier than the other. On my part, it's mostly the left that I have problem with. The right I have pretty decent mobility. On the left, not so much. The other test that's actually I think a little bit more functional is if you're standing. And if you look at your feet, just in your normal resting position, I tend to turn my left foot, a little bit more out. You see, a lot of people walk with duck feet like this, and for some people it's pretty obvious. For some other, you have to kind of look at it a little bit more. But on my hands, just like right here, that's my resting position, and I turn a little bit more. So that means I'm lacking some internal rotation going this way. So I'm going to have to spend probably a little bit more time stretching my left versus my right. The other way to figure that out is if I lay on the ground, just rested there, and bending my knees and letting my leg drop out like this. You can try one at a time first and feel how much tightness you have in your hip. And then you can do both. And once again, my left feels definitely more restricted. I feel more pulled. It's a little bit more uncomfortable. So the first way to keep mobility in your hip would be to just easy, laying on the ground like this. You spread your feet out, and you're just gonna rock your leg in, and then come back to the starting position, back and forth like this. And it's very important that you don't lift your hip as you go. You're not trying to twist your back. So one way to avoid that, it's kind of great to have your arms out like this. You're going to drop your knee just like this. And you can do 20 to 30 of those. And toward the end, toward the last few reps, what you can do is just hold that stretch and just take a deep breath and breathe out very slowly, very slow breathing at the same time. It's going to help your leg relax and into that position. So once again, I'm stretching my left because it's a little bit more tight on that side. So that's an easy way to do it. The other way would be to do it right against the wall. So in this position. And for this one, you can use the help of your other leg. Just you start with your feet out like this, and then bring your other one here, and then just same thing, apply a little bit of pressure there, right on your hip. You're gonna feel a stretch. So I feel most of the pressure in the front and kind of deep in my joint there. So like this, you can obviously do both sides, it's not a bad idea. You can hold out, depending on your tolerance, 15 to 30 seconds. Just like this. Another way would be to be on your hands and knees, and actually on your elbows will work better. So if you start with your hip already internally rotated, on my left once again, and then turning just like this. Turning like this until you feel a nice stretch in your hip. You'll feel a bit of pressure. You can kind of play around with introducing some flexion, some extension. Make sure with all these that there is no pain. A lot of people suffer from something we call hip impingement in the front of their hip, and that would be a stretch that you would have to be very careful, because that's going to tend to increase the impingement. So I wouldn't recommend that particular way of stretching for them. Just like this. And same thing, hold 15 to 20 seconds, depending on your tolerance. and going back, doing the same thing on the other side. Just pretty easy. Like this. And the last one I'd like to show you would be in closed chain, so standing. So, standing on one leg, and then just rotating your entire body and your pelvis right over your hip that you need to stretch. Just like this. You can get to a point where you hold. And getting to this kind of movement. So that might be a good warm-up to do on the field or wherever you are. But as you can see, you don't really need any equipment to stretch your hip. This way, there's some other ways that are more complicated, but I like to keep things simple. So I hope this was helpful, and I'll catch you later.